Yo, 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 this is not the smartest guys in the room. How's everybody doing today? My friend Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Got a fresh, sparkly, clean smile. I've had a busy morning already. It's only 9:30, and I've gone swimming, so I've worked out, and then come back home, and then gone to the dentist, and now I'm back again. Now we're doing not the smartest guys in the room. So yeah, I mean, already an eventful morning. I was told I got the fluoride treatment. So much better. Can I just say? So much better than it used to be. Like I don't, maybe I'm gonna date myself here, but like you remember uh when we were kids, when you would have like get fluoride at the dentist, it was those like foam trays, right? That like don't fit anybody. They're like one size fits all, but like doesn't fit anyone. And so you'd always end up with like the fluoride like dripping down your face, and you'd be like drooling or whatever. It was a whole mess every single time. So now they just paint it on, and basically she was like, the hygienist was like, nothing hot, nothing hard, and nothing sticky for the next 2 hours, but otherwise you can eat or drink, right? And I was like, okay. So I got something to drink here. I got some toast. It is not hard, it's just toast, right? I don't think that counts as hard. And yeah, like, but it used to be like you couldn't eat for like half the day after you had the stupid foam trays with the fluoride and whatever. But anyway, no cavities. So thumbs up there. Doing a good job brushing and flossing. So
Well, you look good. The smile looks good. The whole vibe's good today. So, hey, pause for a sec. Let me time out here. I'm just making myself mad.
Eh, Tell me how you can hear me right now. Can you hear me or not?
yeah, I can hear you.
Is it better or worse? Because I can't hear anything out of my headphones today.
I think it's worse.
All right, then I'll go back to my junky headphones. I got to do better for you guys. We'll figure that out another day.
So I'm back to my headphones, Tom. I'll hear you at half volume today.
What is only one side of your headphones that you stole from a Delta flight in 1994 working, or what?
Yeah, it's all bad, man. It's just not. Maybe I swapped them. I got a couple pairs. Maybe I swapped them by accident. I don't know what's going on. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking ROI today. We're talking. Is that always the question? Everybody wants to know ROI on everything. But before all that, Tom, I have a question for you. I see this morning on like I watch CBS mornings, and two of the stories this morning were husbands uh, in a murder plot, attempted murder, or maybe have murdered their spouse while they were on vacation. One guy's a doctor. He's in Hawaii. He did try to push his wife off a cliff, and people found him trying to push her off a cliff and beat her in the head with a rock. And then another guy is in the Bahamas, and his wife fell off a dinghy. So maybe he did not do it, and let's hope they find her in the water. But they so two situations like that. What can you weigh in on this before? Because I'm sidebarred with this today.
I It always boggles my mind, like when you hear stories like this, right? Because I mean, not for nothing, but there are so many easier ways out of a situation than murder, right? I mean, it's like are you I mean, this doctor, right, is ostensibly an intelligent person if they've managed to become a doctor, right? Theoretically, anyway, they have some base level of like kind of, relatively speaking, higher intelligence, at least above the median measured against the general population, right? Like smarter than average is essentially what I'm saying in a really complicated way. But basically, I'm saying they're smarter than the average bear, right? Like you would think that somebody who's smart enough to become a doctor could come up with a better plan than hit your wife over the head with a rock and push her off a cliff. Like, I mean, where did he go for his ideas of like how to get out of a bad situation? Like Looney Tunes? Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's just it's mind-boggling to me. I can't wrap my head around the idea that he genuinely thought that the best course of action was to, like, you know, Wile E. Coyote his wife. Like, what like, is he trying to catch the Roadrunner or like get out of a marriage? Like, I don't understand what's happening. It's crazy to me that that's where people go. Like, oh no, I'm not happy in my marriage. What if I push her off a cruise ship or something? Like, because I think there was one of those. Like, in the past, there was also one where I think a guy killed his wife, maybe fiance, I think on their honeymoon, like while scuba diving. This was like a number of years ago. I think he got convicted of that. It was in Australia, I think. But either way, like, it's crazy to me that, like, it seems like not a lot of people, but at least enough that it's getting reported on in the news, and there's multiple stories in the news at once. Like, enough people think that that's a good way to solve a problem. Like, what are we what are we doing? What are we even talking about here? Like, this is crazy.
I needed you to weigh in on it because one, my wife watches Dateline all the time, so you know how you see like things in your algorithms and things like that. Well, this isn't in my algorithm. This is just on TV. All these people that are just like you're saying, it's a dumb idea, and then a very suspicious time because it's happening all over the place. So really, really weird, Tom. Hey, Dr. Tachi, you got any thoughts on that? Because I know you're all about the media. What is going on with all this going on?
Their parents were cousins. I don't get it. I don't. Something is, you can still be, you can have intelligence, but that doesn't mean you're emotionally intelligent, nor are you okay in the head. I there's some level of social deviancy there that doesn't make any sense. Anyone who thinks it's okay to off anyone, and then also this society, American society, has created a whole generations of social deviance because of what has been allowed. So I really don't have an answer for you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Tachi. And Tom, I'm sorry, audience. Sorry for the sidebar. It was on my mind. I'm seeing it all the time. So I needed Tom to weigh in on it for me. Tom, are you all right with that?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, and I think, Dr. Tachi, to your point, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Being, sort of book smart or able to achieve a high level of education, right, and an advanced degree and certification in a field, et cetera, doesn't necessarily mean you have a lot of common sense, right? Fair point. I just would have thought, right, because especially if we're talking doctor, like a medical doctor, right, part of that training is designed to help you diagnose illnesses, right? And the diagnostic process is a problem solving process. And so you would think that someone who had gone through rigorous training in a diagnostic process, a problem solving process, right, looking for a solution to a problem, would maybe have better problem solving skills than hit wife overhead with rock, push off cliff, right? Like, it's
You know what though? To your point, that makes sense, but it proves that not all skills are transferable. And the fact that this is part of my problem with some fields, the fact that you are trained so rigorously in one thing that you can't see anything outside of that. This is why there's such a problem in the medical community with not knowing how to talk to people, lack of medical communication skills, because all you know is what you've been trained to do. Now, that doesn't mean there are not doctors, for example, who are great, who have an excellent bedside manner and are empathetic and show sympathy. That doesn't mean that's not there. But that's part of the problem, because when you're so rigorously trained in one thing, you don't have education to do other things. Just my thought.
fair point. I think that makes sense. What do you think, Dom? Should we see if we can steer the bus back onto the road? Or
this is like old school. This is like old school Clubhouse when we did the 2-hour shows. So today the topic is ROI, We're going to get off of people murdering their wives on vacation, and we're going to get into ROI, because ROI, everywhere you go, Tom brought up Tom sent to me the message last night. ROI, what do you think? And everything, everybody, every meeting, people are like, ROI, ROI. I used to sell yellow book ads, yellow page ads back in the day, and we would lay out, hey, your ad's 100. You told me, sir, you make $500 off of every landscaping job. We know that an ad this size gets you 30 calls a month. You close 1 out of 10, calls or whatever. This ad is going to get you this much dollar. Every sell was an ROI. We laid out the book. We asked them, okay, well, what is your average sell? What is your average profit? How many calls? This size ad, this. Tom, the whole world is obsessed with ROI. Are they too obsessed? So weigh in, my friend.
I think ROI, return on investment. Joe Slaughter just put in the chat. I'm just going to ask you, Joe, go ahead and spell out that acronym, right? I know what return on investment is, the last 3 letters, but I don't know what the first part is. So like, do me a favor, spell out that acronym, and then maybe we can talk about it in the comments. But anyway, I think ROI has its place. Like, you want to know your return on investment. It makes sense if you are investing money in securing new clients or new business. You want to make sure that you are getting or garnering more business than it costs you to acquire, right? Like that your costs per new customer acquisition or whatever are in line such that you can still earn a profit, right? As a business, you can operate in the green, that you don't end up going under because you're spending more than you have coming in, right? I mean, it makes sense from a business perspective to track things like ROI. The problem is that we've ended up in a place in our sort of business culture where ROI has become the sort of the stick that everything is measured against. And what I mean by that is there are costs, things that you invest time and money into that you cannot measure a direct ROI against. Not everything has a measurable cash return that you can directly attribute to that expenditure, right? But it doesn't mean that it is not a valid expenditure, right? And it's sort of, I think it's a bit of it's an idea that has kind of trickled down from large businesses to small businesses. And if I were to guess, it comes from this sort of tendency to emphasize profitability above all else, right? And to measure that on a quarterly basis, right? And unless you're a publicly traded company, you don't have to do quarterly earnings reports to your shareholders, right? That's something that publicly traded companies have to do. If you're not a publicly traded company, if you're a small business, you don't have to do that. You don't only have to think in terms of, will this spend deliver profit within this quarter so that I can report that, right? Otherwise, I need to evaluate whether or not this spend makes sense. The problem is that you can only really measure the value of that spend or the return on the investment, right? If that spend happens somewhere in your sales process, right? If there is a cost in your sales process, then you can measure that cost against the sales that it brings in, right? That it helps bring in. But if that cost happens or that investment happens outside of your sales process, i.e., you create content to build brand awareness, that happens outside of your sales process, you cannot measure the value in terms of new revenue coming into the business directly off of that investment, right? Like you cannot make a series of content intended to raise brand awareness around your business or your brand or your products even, right? And build that awareness outside of your sales process and then say, hey, that investment delivered, X amount of revenue. And so I know that there's a good ROI on that investment. You can't measure that. There's no way to measure that. And I've gotten asked a ton of times, what's the ROI on video? And I keep trying to explain to people, and I swear it's like banging your head against the wall, right? Like I feel like I might as well just turn my hat around backwards and just start smashing my forehead into a pile of bricks, right? Every time I get this question, because it's a nonsensical question. It demonstrates to me that you don't really know what you're talking about if you ask me what the ROI on video is, because it's immeasurable. And so I think I'm going to start answering it in a different way, right? Rather than trying to explain to people that there is no ROI on video, what instead I'm going to say is the ROI on video is connection, right? And the value of connection is that if you manage to connect with your customers, you can, or your audience, you can then start to move them into your sales process, right? But without that initial connection, there is no movement into your sales process. So what does video do, right? Or video communications that exist above the funnel, right? Or outside your sales process. What do those do? They open the door to the funnel, right? They open the doorway to the sales process. So they are incredibly important, but that's the ROI. The ROI is without that content, your sales process stagnates, right? Your revenue stagnates. If you do not reach a broader audience, at some point, you stop being able to bring in new customers, right? You run into customer acquisition issues. And so that connection that opens the door to customer acquisition, that opens the door to people entering your sales process, that opens the door to revenue for your brand, that's the ROI for video. And I think that's how I'm going to start answering that question, because it's so much easier than trying to explain to somebody that there is no measurable ROI on video. And the fact that you asked me that question demonstrates to me you don't know what you're talking about. Which is not exactly how I phrase it, but that is the truth. If you ask what the ROI on a piece of video content is, then all you're doing is demonstrating that you don't really understand what ROI is, and you don't understand how video strategically should be used to help grow your brand or your business. So those are my sort of, broad-based thoughts.
Tom, thank you, man. I love you getting it started so clearly, and we can speak in your terms. I would love to speak in those terms. You have exposure and awareness, and then you have client acquisition. So whoever is running said campaign or looking, if we're talking in a media field, are you doing this for exposure, brand awareness, or are you doing it for client acquisition? And then it needs to be very clear what is, then you would need to have an ask that leads to client acquisition. That is a direct ask in that amount of time with a product that can, I have a product that I make $500 on, $1,000 on, $2 on. Coke is never, ever, ever, ever on a ad making, if they make 50 cents a dollar on a can of Coke and it was $1 million, they're never making their return on that ad. It is always exposure, brand awareness. Eventually, when I'm thirsty, I have heard Coke so many times that I'm buying a Coke. They're two different campaigns completely. And if the buyer doesn't know that, which one they're going for, then I think the service provider is going to be spinning their wheels forever. So what's the ROI? Is it always ROI? That's the question. So we got a couple people that jumped in here. So Julie Loken, you jumped in here when we were talking about that, and Joe. So since you jumped in at that time and Joe did, I'm going to you first and then Joe. Come on, Julie. What do you got?
On ROI?
Yeah, that's the topic. Go on.
All right. ROI. The most important things, I think, for ROI is owning your ROI and not renting it. And this is something that Dom taught me, is everything is aligned with your IGA. How about that? What is IGA? Dominic?
You got it. Income generating activity. I'm making acronyms all day long.
I know.
IGA.
So IGA, but owning your ROI. So meaning you own your email list. So working towards owning that email list, building strategic partnerships, owning those partnerships, as opposed to creating the vanity content that so many people do. That is not ROI, in my opinion. And Tom is going to sign off on that one because Tom and I agree on everything. And just, I think then also optimizing what you do already have in your toolkit. But I could go on and on about this. I just think that optimizing what you have, making sure that you own what you're doing, and also building, you can spend so much time, years building those strategic partnerships, but there is so much ROI in strategic partnerships. And there's so many cool ways to do it as well, like a podcast. So there you go. That's all I got for the second. Thank you.
Okay, gotcha, Jolie. Tom, Jolie gave you a sign off, but I like this term vanity content. I think you would agree with people producing vanity content, companies, whatever, just to make themselves feel good. They're probably going to see no ROI in that, Tom.
It's one of the classic mistakes that I see businesses make all the time, right? Is they make, I mean, vanity content is a good way to describe it, right? They make content for themselves. They make it because they're super excited about their unique process or the new machine they got in their factory or the unique way that they produce their products or whatever it is, or their unique process and whatever it is. Like they're excited about things in their business because they have a vested interest in their business and they care about their business. And the problem is they forget or fail to realize that other people don't love their baby the way they love their baby, right? And their audience doesn't have a vested interest in their business, so they don't care, right? And so they make this vanity content, they get all excited about it, and then they share it, and it kind of goes wah wah, right? Like it just falls on its face. And the reason it falls on its face is because the audience doesn't care, because you didn't make it for them, you made it for you. So like if you want to make a piece of content internally to get your team excited, that's a good use of content to get your team excited about the work that you're doing and motivated to keep pushing further to grow the business or the brand, whatever the case may be. Great, do it. But don't expect your broad audience, right, potential customers or clients, to react the same way as people who get a paycheck from you every week would react, right? Or people whose livelihoods depend on the success of the business would react, because obviously they're going to care more, right? They're just obviously going to care more at the end of the day. So yeah, so I think it's a good point. Like that vanity content has a terrible ROI, right? It's terrible at building connection because you're not making it for your audience. If you want to build connection with content, you have to deliver something the audience wants to watch, right? You have to deliver something that they will actively choose to watch. And that's an important distinction, because we are so inundated with content, right? In the media environment, in the digital environment that we live in, we are so inundated with content that it is incumbent on you to figure out what your audience wants to watch and then to deliver them something that they want to look at, right? And then expect them to look at it. But you can't make something for yourself and expect other people to be excited about it. That's crazy talk.
Crazy talk. Love the term. Joe, you had this discounted cash flow rate of return. Joe, a boxer from Pittsburgh. So, Joe, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so you hear ROI. Okay, how about you have your last $100 in your pocket? And I say, you know what? You borrow that to me, I'll give you $10 tomorrow. Sound like a good deal? I'll give you 10 extra dollars. I'll give you 110 tomorrow. Can we make a deal on that?
Sure, bring it on.
Perfect. So now 5 minutes later, you walk up to Holly. Holly needs that 100 a hell of a lot more than I did. She'll say she'll borrow that $100, but you don't have it anymore. and she'll give you $200 back tomorrow. The opportunity cost between the two is that's where the discounted cash flow comes in. So it's like saying, hey, I expect this project at minimum has a 15% rate of return at minimum. So you almost discount the money that you say you would be making, because money today is worth more than money tomorrow. And so a discounted cash flow rate is what investment percent do you expect that it's worth less tomorrow? So that way you make your decisions about spend it today, so that way it'll be worth more tomorrow. That's kind of where the discounted cash flow rate comes. When you guys mentioned new equipment, new plants, in some ways with this, where all the infrastructure that's going to get blown up and have to be rebuilt, someone put in a discounted cash flow rate of return, and guess what? All their books that said what rate of return they got, well, they're not going to make those rate of returns. They had risk that brought it up. So a discounted cash flow also addresses some of the risk of saying, you know what, you're probably going to lose this money. When you put it into this investment, this money is starting to set itself on fire. Now, does the equipment or whatever that you're putting it into bring back more money on the cash flow rate to make up for your initial investment is essentially being burned?
Joe, man, thank you. That's some technical stuff, Tom. You need to listen to him. Do your homework over there. So
I think Joe just reminded me why I would be the last person that should ever be the CFO of anything. Like, I shouldn't even be the CFO of my life. Forget about like a business or somebody else's business. Because when it comes to those sort of like financial projections and calculations and assumptions of risk and discounted cash flow rates, and I don't know, it very quickly becomes like the teachers from Charlie Brown, right? And I can't follow it. It's not how my brain works. So I appreciate it, but yeah, I should not be I should never be a CFO. You want
One of the terms
to
I really loved that you kind of alluded to is proximity. I think is really one of those terms, that exposure and proximity. So putting out that video content so someone has the opportunity to be in proximity of your message. That exposure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's incredibly important, especially when it comes to messaging and building audience for a brand or business. So yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Joe. Thanks for bringing us some financial wisdom that definitely Dom, I'll speak for myself. Maybe Dom is better at this than I am, but that I could never have brought. So I appreciate it. Dom, what do you? You're grinning over there like a Cheshire cat. I kind of
you know what that reminds me of?
throw something at me.
A Chester cat. What was that? A Chester cat? What
The
the hell was
Cheshire
that?
cat from Cheshire from Alice in Wonderland. The Cheshire cat.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Okay, so first it does remind me why we named the show Not the Smartest Guys in the Room, because we are not the smartest guys in the room. So thank you, Joe. But then I wanted to just clarify, when we put out content into the world, I have sold Yellow Pages, pharmaceuticals, insurance. I've driven hundreds of miles, paid hundreds of dollars for doctors' lunches, hundreds of dollars in gas, thousands, probably tens of thousands of dollars in gas to drive across states, knock on doors, drop off information of people that weren't there, try to get indoors, cold call on the phone, all those things. When we put out content today, when all of us are on our phones, we are on a phone app right now. When we put out content about our message, we put that out into the world, maybe it's interesting, it's free. It's a free distribution model. So rather than buying Dr. X lunch, rather than driving to Ohio like I did for pharmaceuticals, we are putting out a piece of content. It's free, it's on message, and we put it out. If we're consistent with it, maybe those people see it. And I know Tom's used this term before. It's a virtual handshake, a virtual introduction. That's all. Hey, there's Dom. dropping off some stuff, dropping off some stuff, dropping off some stuff. Maybe today, when Dom dropped off his 50th video, maybe somebody says, that's all right. I think I like that. I think I'm going to give him a call. That's all it is. Virtual handshake opens the door. That's it. Tom, what say you? You think it's time for Tom's thumbs, something good?
Yeah, absolutely. I will add this one thing, kind of, because you're right. I have said that before, and I do say that, like, that you should think of content like a virtual handshake. And I just want all of us to imagine you're walking down the street, right? And a stranger walks up to you, and the first thing out of their mouth is, if you give me $20, I will show you how to do X, right? What's your reaction? Your reaction is going to be, I don't know you. I don't really need to do X. I'm not interested. No, thanks. I'm not going to give you $20. And
what is the alternative of me using?
Hold on. Let me finish, Joe. So basically you're going to push past them, right? Like that's the instinct that the vast majority of people are going to have, is the vast majority of people are going to push past and not give that person $20. But if you walk up to somebody, right, and you say, hey, how you doing? My name's Tom. Nice to meet you. How's your day going? Right? What is likely to happen? They might shake your hand, right? They might engage you in conversation. They might just give you a polite, hey, how you doing? And then walk by. But either way, you haven't left a bad taste in their mouth, right? You haven't made a bad impression. And that's the difference, right? Is with content that reaches out and extends a hand for a handshake versus content that is just always asking for something, right? And I think you have to shake people's hands, right? You have to get to know people a little bit. You have to put in the time and the effort before you can make the ask, right? Just like with content, just like you have to do face to face, right? And that's the thing, is that when we're not face to face, it's really easy to forget that we're dealing with human beings. But at the end of the day, we're all people, and people are people. People be people, and right, like, no matter whether they're watching your content, right, or they're face to face with you on the street, you should talk to them the same way, right? You should treat them with the same level of respect and dignity, that you would treat them face to face, regardless of the medium that you're addressing them through. And I think that's where things get things get lost, right? That's the thing. So anyway, with that said, now why don't you try to surprise me with something here, Dom? What do we got for Tom's thumbs this week?
All right, we're keeping it simple. We're keeping it pure today. This is the purest of Tom's thumbs for our production expert, our co-host, who always has an opinion. You got to give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. Tom, what do you think about a summer trip to the Dairy Queen?
All right. So Dairy Queen is not, I'm just going to preface with this. Dairy Queen is not a big thing where I grew up, right? In fact, I don't know where there is a Dairy Queen near where I grew up. And I did go, and also, I will also preface with this. I had a whole bunch of food allergies when I was a kid. I grew out of the vast majority of them. But I also couldn't eat ice cream when I was a kid. So like I think the nostalgia factor is a little bit lost on me for two reasons. One, there was no Dairy Queen, and two, I couldn't eat ice cream when I was a kid. So anyway, yeah, but I think I get where you're going with this, right? And you're going for like the summertime nostalgia, right? And yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, on a hot summer day, you've been outside, you've been active all day, especially when you're a kid, you're running around, you're riding bikes, you're playing games, you're, playing a pickup game of, kickball, or like you're throwing a Frisbee around, or like you're playing hide and seek in the woods, or whatever you're doing, right? Playing stickball in the street, whatever the case may be, wherever you were when you were a kid. I think nothing hits, right, like that like an ice cream cone on a hot summer day, especially when you're a kid. And I think as an adult, when you're running around outside with your kids, right, and you hear the ice cream truck coming down the street, right, or you happen to be passing a Dairy Queen and it makes sense to like pop in and get a cone or like flag down the ice cream truck and get something from the ice cream truck, then yeah, I mean, yeah, it's got to get a thumbs up, right? Like in that context, 100% without question. You know, in the parlance of today, you know, I would say that on a hot summer day, Dairy Queen slaps. Thumbs up.
Dang, Tom. Okay, Dr. Tachi came out here. Dr. Tachi says, "Is Dairy Queen really ice cream?" Dr. Tachi, do you want to explain this comment here?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, Dairy Queen ice cream or frozen dessert is actually powder mixed with water and then frozen. So I guess it's powdered ice cream, but it's not ice cream in the real sense. Now, don't get me wrong. I did enjoy a good Dairy Queen when it was open because it was only open in the summer where I grew up. But is it really ice cream?
So you question Tom, so the question becomes, can Tom even give a thumbs up on this? Because you're saying technically it's not ice cream. Interesting, Tom. You have your first asterisk by a
Well, I
by a
think
thumbs.
I think, and I have not looked this up, so I'm guessing here, but I think that technically it qualifies as a frozen dairy dessert, and the real difference between there's a couple of differences between ice cream and like a frozen dairy dessert, right? That leads to that separate qualification, and it is the percentage of butterfat or milk fat in the product, and which the Dairy Queen soft serve may have a lower percentage of dairy fat, and how much air is incorporated in the freezing process, right? I.e., the density, which leads to like this sort of density of the product. And so, like, if it has, I forget what the percentages are. I've heard this before, but if it crosses a threshold, basically you can't call it ice cream anymore because it doesn't have enough dairy fat and it has too much air incorporated into it, so the density isn't high enough, and so it has to be referred to as a frozen dairy dessert. But I think it's made from dairy products. Like it's not like Cool Whip is to whipped cream, right? Where Cool Whip has no dairy in it, it is not whipped cream, right? It is whipped fat, but it is not whipped cream, right? Like I do think that Dairy Queen's soft serve has dairy in it. It is made from dairy products, but I think because of those sort of technicalities and the FDA and how they classify foods, it can't technically be called ice cream. I think it's a frozen dairy dessert. But I mean, look, a soft serve cone in the summertime. I think generally speaking, most soft serve is not actually technically ice cream. I think technically most soft serve is a frozen dairy dessert because it has too much air in it, which is part of what keeps it kind of soft like that. And it's a lower fat percentage, so that it doesn't melt quite as fast. So
I'm gonna have to play this back for my friend Jimmy. So you turned a Tom's thumbs up and a thumbs up. Julie, what do you think? Julie, before we get to Holly, we're going back to ROI. Julie, what do you think about Tom turning a positive thumbs up into health facts about ice cream, and then about that he was, what do you say, lactose intolerant as a kid and couldn't have ice cream? How something going
It's a
on.
slippery slope, and it just gets more depressing every time he opens his mouth about ice cream. And I'm like, Dairy Queen is just a delicious treat. Now I'm just very confused if I should ever go to Dairy Queen again. I don't know.
I don't know.
Confused now.
I don't understand. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it being called a frozen dairy dessert. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's like a technical classification thing. And also,
It's like you've taken the joy out of it, Tom. You've taken the joy out of it.
Okay. Sorry that having more information is joyless. But
Yeah,
the other,
I like to live ignorance is bliss sometimes, and my ice cream, yeah, ignorance is bliss. And I'm just teasing, actually. It's actually fascinating how much you know about everything, to be honest. So, no, keep going, and I'm just teasing you. Okay.
I appreciate it. I'm here for it. No, well, the other thing I was going to say too, Dom, is to be clear, I was never, nor have I ever been lactose intolerant. Lactose intolerance is not an allergy. It's a digestive issue, but it is not an allergy. I was allergic to dairy products, which means I have an allergy. Allergies are typically associated with proteins, and an allergy to dairy products means that I could not eat any dairy products, right? So like my entire childhood, I was also allergic to eggs. I was also allergic to tomatoes. Fun fact, all kinds of nuts and a bunch of other stuff. So like weird little things about my childhood, right? Like I didn't know what ketchup tasted like until I was a teenager. Like I'd never had ketchup. I couldn't put ketchup. You know what I used to do when I was a little kid? I used to dip French fries in mustard because it was the only condiment I could eat. I couldn't eat mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is made with eggs.
This
So
is so sad, Tom. You really had a sad
Right, right. This is
childhood.
very. I'm going to go have to watch my own motivational videos after hearing Tom break down ice cream and all this stuff.
Mustard with fries. I mean, that's depressing too.
Well,
Could
I,
you eat
I
spaghetti?
mean, not if you like mustard.
Eric Church has a song where he eats mustard on his fries. It's a good country song. Okay, Holly,
Thank, I was just going to say thank you, Dr. Tachi, in the comments. She said that ketchup is deplorable and I wasn't missing anything. I use ketchup now, but I use it really kind of sparingly because I agree it's not the best. It's often the best when it's used in concert with other things like ketchup and mayonnaise on something or mixed together into a sauce with some other things added to make like a little kind of special sauce is a great thing on a burger, but like just ketchup, no. And also, I'm a New Yorker through and through. Like, do not put ketchup on your hot dog if you're like over 12 years old. Period. End of story. I don't want to hear it.
we have went off the tracks here, but we're going down that way if we're going. Now I see a lot of people in this room that aren't from Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh. Joe's from Pittsburgh. I need to know in the comments, like if somebody eats a ketchup that isn't Heinz, we even have like shops that say Heinz verified in Pittsburgh. Like you put a like a stamp on your restaurant if it's Heinz verified. So are any of you savages eating ketchup that's not Heinz when you are eating ketchup? I need to know that.
I got another fun food fact for you around ketchup, just in case you're curious. I think of the tomato ketchups, Heinz is the best. Here's an interesting thing, though. People think ketchup is always tomato. If you notice, most ketchups, like Heinz ketchup, Hunt's, whatever, will say tomato ketchup on it. You know why? Ketchup is the style of sauce. It is not necessarily made out of tomatoes. You know what they use in the Philippines? Bananas. They make banana ketchup in the Philippines. And that's what they use instead of tomato ketchup. It is also red, although they dye it red. But yeah, banana ketchup is what they use in the Philippines, for example. So, you know, just
Man,
one of
you
those
are
things.
one
Ketchup
weird.
is the kind of sauce, not a tomato-based condiment.
You are one weird dude. Holly, get us back on track here. You can weigh in on ice cream, but please, after that, weigh in on ROI. When, as a business owner, are you asking for ROI when you're making a purchase?
Hey, good morning. Um, the ice cream and ketchup conversation was really good, I thought. So, but I will go to ROI, and for fear of letting y'all really know how deeply I don't understand all of that, I'm just going to say that through this conversation, I am understanding that ROI isn't always about money, but it's about other ways of investing and other ways of getting back. So, and I'm not real sure how I came to that conclusion with what y'all have been talking about, but that's what I've that's what I've gleaned from this. So I'm going to close the mic and see what y'all think about that.
That's a good point, Holly. And let's just throw this out on. Let's say I make in my office. I have a logo behind me, and I have logos everywhere that say Motivation Champs. It's a logo, a fighter raising his hands. A logo, I can tell you, pure ROI on a logo has never made me 1 cent. I mean, clear as day. So everybody, if you're looking straight ROI on what I should spend my money on, or a profile picture, like we could get new pictures of ourselves made. We could go have a photographer make new pictures of ourselves made. But never made me a cent. But that does not mean over the course of time that having a logo doesn't mean that I'm professional, having better pictures. Like you guys all have better pictures than me. I got to get professional here. You have better pictures than me. At some point, I should spend so I look a little more professional, other than waving that Steelers flat towel that I'm waving in that picture. So uh, there are things that you can spend on that build your brand, lay the foundation, but you're never going to get immediate ROI from Tom.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, I think, and your logo is a good one. It reminds me of a metaphor that I used to, or analogy that I used to use all the time when trying to explain this to people, and that was, especially if somebody had, a sort of a if somebody had a brick and mortar, it'd be easier to kind of cover or to address this. But the other sort of way to do it is to just point to a local business, right? For example, we all have driven past many a gas station, right? And often gas stations will have very large, lit up, illuminated signs on really tall poles, near their establishments, right? They'll have these huge signs on really tall poles that cost them tens of thousands of dollars to put up, right? I mean, these things are not cheap. Tens, if not $100,000 or something like that to put up. And the simple truth is, if you go into one of those gas stations or talk to one of the owners of one of those gas stations and ask them what's the ROI on that sign, they can't tell you, right? They can't tell you. There's no way for them to measure exactly how much money they have generated, how much revenue they have generated for their business simply because of that sign. But they know they need it. They know they need that exposure. They know they need people to know that they're there, right? And in a digital world, especially if you don't have a brick and mortar, especially if you don't have foot traffic or road traffic, driving past you, right? You need something like video, but some content to put out in the world to generate that exposure for you, right? That is the return on that investment is people being aware that you exist, in you being able to sow the seeds of connection with your audience, right? And then opening the door to your sales process for people that qualify. But yeah, I think that's something that is often missed, is that as you said, just because you can't measure it, right, doesn't mean it shouldn't be there. Right. And how many businesses have logos, and how many businesses can tell you on a P&L exactly how much revenue their logo has generated for them? I would argue none, because how do you measure that? You can't. Right. And that's the problem.
Hey, Julie had a disagree in the comments, so let's hear your disagree. Then we got to cruise, Tom. So come on. Julie, disagree, bring it. You got a disagreement. What do you got?
Sorry, I just walked away from my phone. Well, I was just disagreeing with you at first.
And then you re-agreed. What do you
Well, I
got?
re-agreed, but if I'm comparing one brand against another and making a choice, and you're more attractive than the other brand, I'm going to go with you. The optics are always the case, so that's just where I was going to disagree. But you kind of agreed with me at the end. So
Yeah, there you go. See,
That's
but
true.
yeah, eventually you do have to have them eventually to look more professional and all those things. And if somebody's choosing on that one thing, like you said, Jolie, well, then maybe they choose that way. Tom, you got a PSA. You want me to get a PSA? What do you got? I got a PSA. I got a memory lane. Come
I
on,
was
we
going
got
to say,
wrapped up.
Julie said you're more attractive than the competition. I wonder if that was a way of her complimenting your hair today.
My
You look
hair
like
is
you're having
looking
a
good
good hair
today.
day.
My
Does he have a base tan?
I got sunburn the other day, and my base tan is starting. I will tell you, guys, get ready. It's going to be good in no time.
Ugh, don't get sunburned, you knucklehead.
Just on my neck a little bit. It was good. It was good. Okay, Tom, I'll go PSA first. Then you
Okay.
go. Get us on a clock here. PSA on a clock. I'm ready to go. Okay, today my PSA is if we are having a meeting via Zoom, if we're on something via Zoom, like a professional meeting, camera should be on. You should be looking at the camera, at least some direction of the camera. Do your best with what you have. You should not be working on another screen, a computer, somewhere else. I mean, I get on a call. I was on a call one day and somebody was like this, like for like a period of time. I said, everything all right? Later, they're doing this. I know they're not. It feels. I am offended, like they are not paying attention to me. Later on, I asked them. I said, "Do you need to go? Do you want to reschedule?" Gave them multiple opportunities, and they were just like, "Nope, I know." So please, if you're attending Zoom's like we're talking virtual things today, real things. This is like a virtual handshake. It's like a meeting, but through the computer. Be professional. That's what I got, Tom. Thank you.
I agree with you, man. It drives me nuts, especially when somebody. Here's my addendum to that. If you are going to accept a meeting invitation for me that is specifically a video conference, whether it's Google Meet or WebEx or Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever the platform is, if you're going to accept a meeting invitation from me that is clearly supposed to be a video conference, do not get on without a camera, right? Like drives me absolutely nuts. Like, or message me, email me and be like, hey, I can't do a video conference. Can we do a phone call instead? Like, that's fine. But don't just like show up and be like, I'm not going to turn on my camera, because you know what I want to do when you do that is I want to say, well, cool, then I'm going to just turn off all of mine and I'll talk to you when you're ready to actually show up to the meeting the way you agreed to show up to the meeting. So apparently that could have been my PSA, but I have another one.
Tom, I'll tell you, I do turn off my camera when people do that to me. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to sit here on camera like I'm a show pony. So, all right, let's hear your PSA.
What am I, a dancing monkey for you? I'm turning my camera off too, you jerk. Anyway, all right, here we go. Here's my actual PSA. So for anybody that knows me, you know a couple of things. Like one, I'm involved in the volunteer fire service, have been for my entire adult life, grew up around it. And two, I like to cook. And so one of the things that I try to do as often as I can is I cook. We tend to have dinner before our monthly meetings at the firehouse. And so whenever I can, I cook dinner for the fire department for the meetings. Usually the turnout isn't that big. There's only about 20 people or so. So I cooked last night. It was super simple. Roasted chicken, roasted potatoes, roasted green beans. Super straightforward, easy dinner, salad, whatever. I got a ton of compliments on the chicken, and like, here's all it is. Here's the whole secret. It was drumsticks and thighs in an oven, 425 for like an hour and 20 minutes, right? The trick is if you're cooking dark meat chicken, cook it to like 195 to 200. Don't cook it to 165. It'll be tough. 195 to 200, it'll be falling off the bone. That's it.
Tom, we need more cooking from you. You told me one time for Tom's Thumbs we could ask about food, but I appreciate the cooking tip from you today. Holly had said earlier, in the comments, it said, how does Tom know about so much stuff?
I was that really annoying kid that always asked why to everything. And my parents used to make me go look up answers for myself in the encyclopedia that we had on a shelf. in the den. And so, and then I would come back and recite to them what I had learned. So basically I know a little bit about a lot because I was an annoying kid, is probably an easy way to answer that question. And I have good retention. That's just something I have. It's not something I necessarily work on, but instead of talking about my memory and the things that I know, why don't we take a walk down memory lane with Dom and see what he wants to reminisce about?
We are cruising. It is a special day, Tom. So, on this special day, what I am going to show you is Mr. Pants, the Easter egg that comes back every year. My kids at 17 and 20 tried to get out of dyeing eggs this year, but they did dye eggs with me. So, one more year, I sat with the kids and I said, if you can dye eggs with your family, you are a rich man. So on that day, Mr. Pants with his sweet little hair in the back, Tom, I'm going to eat him on camera, but I have a feeling you want to ask about Mr. Pants. So before I break him open and eat, have at this could be Mr. Pants' best hair yet. So what do you got, Tom?
No, I just one, I'm wholly unsurprised that you brought Mr. Pants. I kind of had a feeling that Mr. Pants was going to make a cameo today, and then actually I'm sort of surprised. I was kind of expecting or wondering if you were going to rehash last year's Tom's Thumbs and ask me about dyeing Easter eggs, because my daughter, who's 19 months old, not quite, coming up on 2 years old. She'll be 2 in July. We got tons of people asked us like, oh, did you guys do an Easter egg hunt or anything like that? And we were like, no, she doesn't know what Easter eggs are. She isn't old enough to have it explained to her, right? Like, she would never find the eggs. We could hide stuff, then we'd have to remember where we put it because she would never find them. So, and of course we didn't dye eggs with her. That's just like, I mean, you might as well just ask, like, did you dye your kids' hands colors for Easter? Because that's all that would happen. She wouldn't dye eggs. She would end up with dye on her hands and like have weird colored fingers for the rest of the week. So like, that's all that would happen. So you might as well just ask like, hey, did you dye your kids' hands for Easter? And like, no, of course we didn't. That's a crazy thing to do. Next year, we'll probably do some Easter eggs. We'll probably do a little thing for her because she'll be old enough to actually kind of engage with it and understand a little bit. But yeah, she doesn't know. It's just another day to her. It's another day where she got upset about wearing a dress that my mother bought her for Easter. So we put her in an Easter dress and she was not happy about it for a little while. She got over it and she was fine, but she was real not happy about that dress at first. That was Easter. What are you going to do? Anyway, I'm unsurprised to see Mr. Pants. I think it's a little weird that you're excited to eat him in front of everybody. That's a strange twist. Didn't see that one coming.
I ate Mr. Pants last year, so I'm going to do it again because last year you claimed that people wasted their eggs and didn't eat them. Mr. Pants is the last remaining boiled egg, so I'm going to show you once again when I eat. As you do your wrap up, I will be putting red hot on Mr. Pants and eating him.
I don't think you did it on camera last year. I think you sent me a text or something after the fact. I don't think you actually ate any of your Easter eggs on camera. I mean, we could go back and we could try to find the tape, but I don't think you did. Anyway, this has been a bit of a meandering episode, but I'm going to do my best to wrap this up a little bit. I'm gonna mute you, Dom, so we don't hear you.
No, you're kidding it.
Just holding pants in one hand. Yeah, I'm with you, Julie. This is slightly unsettling. We're watching Dom turn Mr. Pants into Humpty Dumpty and then devour him live on camera. Anyway, little Frank's Red Hot. Put that shit on everything. Anyway, look. I think when it comes to ROI, right, there's value in measuring it. But at the end of the day, what really, really matters is, are the investments that you're making moving your business forward, right? Are they helping your business, or are they just costs, right? And so I would argue creating a logo for your brand, right, is an investment that returns value to your business, right? It is something valuable. Just ask like Nike or Coca-Cola, right? Logos can be important, right? As your brand grows in terms of brand recognition, all kinds of things, right? So logos, yeah, good investment. Video that makes you really happy but doesn't do anything for your audience, bad investment, right? So bad return because you're not able to build connection. And that's I think the most important thing when we talk about these kind of top of funnel, right, before the sales process, outside of the sales process kind of investments, like the video strategies that I espouse, like Don was talking about with logos, and we were talking about with signage, and even with the work that Dom does with books and thought leadership, right? That kind of work happens outside of the sales process, before the funnel, right? The connection that you can build if you use those types of investments wisely, if you make those investments wisely, is incredibly valuable. And no one will ever convince me that connection, person to person, human being to human being, human being to humanized brand or business, that no one can ever convince me that that connection is not valuable. It is absolutely valuable. It's not value that can be measured in dollars and cents, but it is value nonetheless that will return in your business, will show up as revenue in your business eventually, right? So you have to just be wise with your investments in order to make sure that they earn a return, but don't disqualify something as a wise investment just because you can't measure it in dollars and cents, right? Not everything is measurable in the same way. So that's all I got to say about that. As always, we appreciate you guys. You guys are the reason why we do what we do. You are the reason why we are not the smartest guys in the room, as Dom just demonstrated by eating Mr. Pants live on camera. That was weird. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. We appreciate you guys being here as always. We love you. We thank you. And we can't wait to see you next week. So until then, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We love you. Thanks. Bye-bye.